Whether hapless pawns, political power players, or iconic princesses, these ladies broke their royal mold.
At least you've dressed properly for my presence.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most famous queens in history. For this list, we looked at the female monarchs whose royal legacy continues to capture the public's imagination. Whether known for their brilliant leadership or their less than brilliant demise, these are the queens who, one way or another, defied expectations and in doing so redefined what it can mean to be a queen. Number 10. Mary, Queen of Scots. Queen of Scotland at 6 days old, married to a short-lived French king, and with claim to the English throne, Mary, Queen of Scots was doomed to make history. Raised in France, Mary's rule in Scotland was plagued by scandal. She fled to England, hoping for sanctuary, but her cousin Elizabeth I was wary of her intentions. Mary was imprisoned and eventually executed.
Lord, into your hands I commend my spirit.
For Mary, Queen of Scots, noble birth proved more burden than blessing.
And now I must die. It is my destiny. And it is your destiny, Elizabeth, to kill me.
Number 9. Queen Elizabeth II.
We, and by that I mean both of us, are most grateful.
As constitutional monarch to 16 realms of the British Commonwealth, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II is largely ornamental. Nevertheless, Elizabeth has managed to maintain her dynasty's popularity.
Legislation will impose higher penalties on employers who fail to pay their staff the minimum wage.
And since the tragic death of her daughter-in-law Diana, the Queen has demonstrated the surprising ability to adjust her role to the changing expectations of her subjects.
My ministers also champion efforts to secure a global agreement on climate change.
One of the longest reigning monarchs in history, Elizabeth II proves that you can most certainly teach an old queen new tricks. Number 8. Maria Theresa of Austria. The only woman to rule over the Habsburg dominions of the Holy Roman Empire, Maria Theresa defied most expectations. With little training to rule, she strengthened her empire's international standing by building up military forces, improving education, and developing commercial industry within her vast kingdom. Though her enlightened absolutism was little help to some of her children, like Marie Antoinette, Maria Theresa was the last, but one of the most effective Habsburg monarchs in history. Number 7. Catherine the Great of Russia. She rose from a low-level German princess to celebrated Russian empress. With the successful acquisition of new territory and her introduction of new religious and educational reforms, Catherine the Great turned Russia from a medieval backwater into a major European player. Though much focus has been placed on Catherine's love life, which never actually included a horse, it's better to think of her as the great empress who ushered Russia into the modern age. Number 6. Anne Boleyn of England.
Marquess of Pembroke.
Your Majesty.
A charming coquette, a six-fingered witch, an ill-fated queen. 500 years after her death, Anne Boleyn still inspires ongoing debates. As a stylish courtier, Boleyn caught the eye of Henry VIII, who divorced his first wife and the Catholic Church just to marry her. But 3 years later, Anne was beheaded on charges of incest, adultery, and treason. Whether a scheming seductress or victim of nasty gossip, the mother of Elizabeth I remains a tragic and fascinating figure.
You can't have 3 people in a marriage. Why can't you see that?
Number 5. Nefertiti of Egypt. Though her timeless beauty is the stuff of legend, Nefertiti's story goes well beyond her looks. Unlike many Egyptian queens, she was not her husband's sister. If deepening the monarchy's gene pool wasn't enough, Nefertiti wielded more power than most Egyptian queens, ruling alongside her husband and even establishing a new monotheist religion within the empire. Some historians speculate that she may have also ruled as pharaoh alone, showing that Nefertiti's historical significance is more than just skin deep. Number 4. Victoria of England. A woman of little political power, but powerful cultural significance, Queen Victoria's reign is synonymous with England's imperial rise. Championing many social reforms to aid the country's growing urban population, Victoria was also a unifying symbol for the British Empire.
I want to report on living conditions. on parish benefits, housing, all of it.
But her international influence may best be shown by the fact that her 9 children married into most of the ruling monarchies of the period, making Victoria the grandmother of Europe. Number 3. Marie Antoinette of France. The symbol of aristocratic excess, Marie Antoinette lost her head in the name of revolution. 200 years later, France's last queen before the French Revolution is still controversial. Was she a conniving elitist harpy or simply a naive political pawn? Either way, her opulent life and shocking death is a key event in the French Revolution. Though we know little about her true character, the countless stories and salacious intrigue surrounding her make Marie Antoinette a fascinating historical figure and pop culture icon.
I will see to it that my mistresses are off at once, but my place is here with my husband.
Number 2. Elizabeth I of England.
You dare to talk to me of marriage!
The Virgin Queen, Gloriana, or simply Good Queen Bess, Elizabeth I defined an era.
I crown thee, Elizabeth, Queen of England, Ireland, and France.
A politically stabilizing force, she oversaw England's colonial expansion. Her patronage of the arts led to a plethora of English masterpieces, including the works of Shakespeare. And though her death would mark the end of the Tudor dynasty, Elizabeth I remains one of the most famous and celebrated monarchs in English history.
In your hands, upon this moment, lies the future happiness of my people and the peace of this realm.
Before we crown our pick for number 1, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1. Cleopatra VII, the Ptolemaic Queen of Egypt.
All hail Cleopatra, kindred of Horus and Ra, beloved of the moon and sun, daughter to Isis, and of Upper and Lower Egypt, queen.
Her life is historic. Her death is legendary. She was a political mastermind who went from initially ruling with her relatives to the sole pharaoh of ancient Egypt. As Julius Caesar's ally and baby mama, she influenced the fate of 2 empires.
My lord Caesar wishes it to be known that he no longer has a quarrel with Cleopatra of Egypt.
Then let him take his armies out of here and go home.
Though her romance with Mark Antony would prove deadly, it has inspired artists and storytellers for over 2 millennia. One of the richest women in history, Cleopatra is bar none the most popular queen to have ever lived. Do you agree with our list? Which queen is your favorite?
Good morning, Prime Minister.
For more informative top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.